April 7, 1945, Tokyo airspace, 25,000 feet. The air up here is thin, a translucent veil of ice. The temperature hovers at 40 degrees below zero, cold enough to freeze the fluid in a man's lungs in an instant. For Saburo Sakai, the legendary ace of the Imperial Japanese Navy, this altitude usually meant safety, or at least it used to. He sits cramped within the cockpit of his Mitsubishi Zero, a narrow metal enclosure that smells of high-octane aviation fuel. It smells of hot oil and the stale, acrid scent of old sweat. His right hand, encased in thick leather, rests on the control stick. He is feeling the vibration of the Sakai engine, a rhythmic trembling that feels like the heartbeat of the machine itself. Sakai's eyes that have witnessed death 1,000 times across the vast Pacific, are currently locked on the distant horizon. Through the scratched organic glass of his canopy, the intense ultraviolet light stings, but he dares not blink. Because there, at the very edge of his vision, tiny black specks have appeared. At first, they look like mere dust motes. They seem stuck to the windshield, insignificant against the blue void. But as an old hunter, Sakai's instincts begin to scream. The hair on the back of his neck ends up against his collar. A chill that has nothing to do with the altitude shoots down his spine. The specks are growing and flashing. It is the glint of sunlight reflecting off polished aluminum skin, a sharp shimmer signaling danger. They are fighters, not the lumbering for-engine beasts for carpet bombing, but small, agile, single-engine predators built for killing. They circle like a school of silver sharks around the massive B-29 superfortresses, carving lethal larks above Tokyo Bay. Impossible, Sakai growls into his oxygen mask. His mind races, trying to use logic to deny the reality unfolding before him. This is Tokyo. This is the absolute heart of the empire. Where is the nearest American fighter base? Is it Apen? Or is it Tinian? Those are over 1,500 miles away. Even Iwo Jima, the island that has just fallen, is 750 miles of open ocean away. 750 miles is a red line drawn by physics. In 1945, no single-engine fighter can bridge that chasm. It implies a round trip of 1,500 miles. It implies flying for 8 hours over a featureless ocean with no landmarks. It is suicide. It is madness. According to the war games played in Tokyo, American escort fighters absolutely cannot be here. The sky over Tokyo theoretically belongs only to the sluggish B-29s, and against bombers, Sakai and his Zero are supposed to be the apex predators. But the laws of physics seem to have been suspended this morning. The silver ghosts have not only arrived, but they have also arrived in force. As the distance closes, Sakai finally distinguishes the silhouettes, not the Navy F-SIFs, F-Hellcats, not the gull-winged Corsairs. This is something far more terrifying. They have slender noses, squared-off wingtips, and a massive radiator intake scoop under the belly that looks like a gaping maw. It is the P-51D Mustang, the pride of the United States Army Air Forces, the pinnacle of piston-engine fighter design. As the first Mustang banks sharply, its laminar flow wings slicing through the thin air, diving toward the Zero formation, Sakai witnesses a sight he will never forget. From beneath the wings of those silver fighters, two large objects suddenly detach. They tumble through the air, flashing in the sun, falling like silver raindrops toward the Pacific waves, 20,000 feet below. They are drop tanks. They are the key that broke the curse of distance. They are the death warrant for the Empire's air superiority. With the tanks gone, the Mustangs transform instantly. The drag vanishes. The weight vanishes. That legendary Packard Merlin engine unleashes a feral roar as it is freed from its burden. The aircraft becomes a missile, accelerating past 400 miles per hour, bearing down on Sakai with the gaze of the Grim Reaper channeled through 650 caliber machine guns. In that split second, Saburo Sakai realizes that the nature of the war has changed. The invisible shield that protected Tokyo for 3 years the moat of distance has been filled in. But to truly understand this moment of despair, to understand how hundreds of Mustangs miraculously materialized here, we must tear our eyes away from this boiling sky. We must cast them back 2 months to a patch of black volcanics and called Iwo Jima. If you have not seen the black beaches stained dark red with blood, you cannot comprehend the cost of this sight over Tokyo on April 7th. On February 19, 1945, when the first wave of U.S. Marines hit the beaches, they faced one of the densest kill zones in the history of human warfare. The Japanese commander, General Kuribi Ahashi, had turned the island into a honeycomb of underground fortresses, where every inch of ground was covered by interlocking fields of fire. To take this volcanic rock, a mere 8 square miles of sulfur and ash, to capture its battered runways. The Americans paid a butcher's bill. This was not just a battle for an island, it was a blood sacrifice for a stepping stone. 6,821 American Marines died. 19,217 were wounded. Statistically, for every square meter of land taken, American blood was spilled. Why? The generals in the Pentagon knew exactly why. For the fighters, to find a perch in the middle of the vast Pacific for those short-legged fighter planes, to shrink the impossible distance to a barely possible 750 miles. Even as the fighting raged in the tunnels of Mount Suribachi, even as Japanese snipers fired from spider holes, the Navy Seabees were already driving their bulldozers onto the field. They filled bomb craters while shrapnel flew around them. They laid down steel matting. They forced a runway capable of handling hundreds of P-51s into existence. This runway, paved on blood and ash, was the dagger aimed at Japan's heart, but a runway alone is not enough. 750 miles is still a suffocating distance for a pilot in a single-engine plane. It is a one-way ticket with no margin for error. To complete this mission, the Americans relied on an industrial miracle, the P-51D Mustang itself, and a secret weapon that cost a mere $15. Let us walk up to a P-51D sitting on the tarmac at Iwo Jima. Even motionless, it radiates a lethal elegance. The bubble canopy gives the pilot 360 degrees of visibility. The laminar flow wing is designed to slice through the air with minimal resistance. And hidden beneath that long, sleek cowling lies the heart of the beast, the Packard Merlin V1657 liquid-cooled engine. This mechanical monster, driven by a 2-stage-to-speed supercharger, generates 1,695 horsepower. It can push this 4-ton metal bird to a top speed of 437 miles per hour. That is a terrifying number. Considering that Japan's most advanced aero, the Model 52, struggles to touch 350 miles per hour even when pushed to the breaking point. It means that whenever a Mustang pilot chooses, he can attack. Whenever he chooses, he can leave. The Zero is helpless to dictate the terms. However, speed is not everything. For this transoceanic crusade, the most critical component hangs beneath the Mustang's wings. The arguably ugly, crude-looking drop tanks, made of pressurized aluminum, a more even specially treated compressed paper pulp. Each holds 110 gallons of high-octane aviation fuel. In 1945 America, these tanks are churned out on assembly lines. They are produced by the thousands, costing so little they are treated like discarded cigarette butts. But across the ocean in Japan, a drop tank is a scarce strategic resource, something to be carefully saved and reused. This vast chasm in industrial capacity decides the war. It is these unassuming tins that provide the Mustang with an extra 220 gallons of fuel, stretching its combat radius. Stretching its combat radius to over 850 miles. Those extra miles are the difference between life and death. They are the only reason a pilot can fly from Iwo to Tokyo and live to fly back. On the morning of April 7th, the atmosphere at the Iwo Jima airfield is tense enough to snap a cable. Hundreds of Merlin engines start simultaneously. A roar that shakes the very bedrock of the island, blue exhaust mixing with volcanic dust to obscure the rising sun. For the young American pilots, the mission briefing is terrifyingly simple: target Tokyo, round trip 1,500 miles. Radio silence. If your engine fails, you bail out. Below you are the sharks of the Pacific. This is not just a technical challenge, it is a torture test of the human psyche, sitting in their cramped cockpits. The pilots are bundled up like mummies, although the surface temperature of the tropical island is 85 degrees. They wear heavy leather flight jackets and wool trousers because, at altitude, the cockpit becomes a freezer. Life vests, parachutes, one-man life rafts, flare guns, shark repellent. They are packed in so tight they can barely turn their heads. Takeoff is the most dangerous moment. A Mustang loaded with full dropped tanks and a full fuselage tank has a center of gravity that is dangerously far aft. The controls are twitchy. It is like trying to fly a brick that is heavy in the rear. If the pilot stalls, the plane will snap roll and smash into the volcanic rock at the end of the runway, turning into a fireball. Major James Tapp grips the stick. His palms are slick with sweat. He pushes the throttle to the firewall. The manifold pressure gauge jumps to the red line. Massive torque tries to throw the plane to the left. He has to stomp on the right rudder pedal with all his strength. The Mustang lurches down the steel matting, wheels clattering deafeningly. Finally, at the very last inch of runway, the warbird reluctantly leaves the earth, clawing its way into the sky. Next come 3 hours of long, maddening monotony. Formation flying is exhausting. A moment's inattention can lead to a mid-air collision. The drone of the engine hammers against the eardrums. Every slight vibration is magnified by the pilot's fear into a catastrophic failure. Was that a misfire? Did the oil pressure drop? Every pilot fights his own hallucinations. At 20,000 feet, the loneliness is absolute. No land below. No reference points. Just the endless, bottomless blue abyss. Just as the mental strain reaches its breaking point, a white cone appears on the horizon. Mount Fuji, the symbol of Japan. Today, it is a beacon of death. For the pilots of the 15th, 21st, and 506th Fighter Groups, seeing Fuji means two things. First, navigation was perfect. Second, the killing time has arrived. By now, air raid sirens are wheeling across Tokyo. The Japanese radar screens are speckled with so many blips, it looks like someone spilled sesame seeds on black velvet. The Imperial Army and Navy Air Forces display their final, desperate dignity. Approximately 150 fighters scramble to intercept. There are experienced veterans, and there are special attack teenagers with barely 20 hours of flight time. They fly as Eros, Jacks, Tonys, and even the formidable George fighters, climbing desperately toward 25,000 feet. In the second before contact, the sky is silent. Then, a short, cold command cracks over the radio-dropped tanks. Hundreds of dropped tanks detach from their pylons simultaneously. From the ground, it looks as if the sky is crying silver tears. These fuel canisters, once the lifeline for the journey, are now dead weight. As the load falls away, the Mustangs seem to wake up. The noses pitch up, and then, at the pilot's command, they roll over into high-speed dives. The battle erupts. It is an asymmetric slaughter. It is the ultimate showdown between speed and agility. A Japanese lieutenant in his Zaro Model 50 tries to use the tactics he learned in flight school. He sees a Mustang rushing at him and instinctively hauls back on the stick, trying to use the Zero's legendary turning radius to loop behind the American. In 1942, this would have been a fatal trap for the American, but in 1945, it is suicide. The Mustang pilot ignores the turn completely. He doesn't slow down to dogfight. He pushes the throttle forward. The Merlin engine screams, and the plane streaks past like a meteor, moving so fast the Japanese pilot can't even traverse his neck quickly enough to track it. The Mustang uses that massive kinetic energy to zoom climb, shooting straight up into the vertical. In the process, he trades speed for altitude, hanging above the fight. Below him, the Zero, bleeding energy in its tight turn, is now slow, heavy, and helpless. A sitting duck hanging in the air. At the top of his climb, the Mustang performs a perfect Immelman end turn. He rolls over and dives back down. Now the roles of hunter and prey are set in stone. The American pilot frames the helpless Zero in his gyroscopic gunsight. His thumb slams down on the red button atop the stick. 6 Browning M2 machine guns open fire simultaneously. This is not shooting, it is sawing. 75 rounds of .50 caliber armor-piercing incendiary ammunition erupt every second, weaving a dense net of fire. The bullets hit the wing root of the Zero at 3 times the speed of sound. The Zero's wing tanks lack self-sealing rubber. There is no slow smoke trail like in the movies. There is just a violent flash, a concussive boom. And the Zero disintegrates in mid-air, turning into a massive ball of orange fire. The pilot is vaporized before he can even feel the pain. On the other side of the melee, Major James Tapp is putting on a masterclass. His aircraft feels like an extension of his own nervous system. He latches onto a Japanese Tony fighter that tries to dive away, but the Tony's engine is no match for the Mustang. Tapp coolly adjusts his mixture, tweaks his radiator flaps, and parks himself 300 yards behind the enemy. It is a textbook deflection shot. He anticipates the enemy's flight path and fires a short burst. Tracers draw a line of death through the sky, slicing precisely through the Tony's tail control cables. The Japanese plane instantly loses equilibrium, tumbling like a withered leaf down into the dense residential districts of Tokyo. Saburo Sakai, from his cockpit, witnesses this hell's cape. He tries to fight back. He tries to bring his guns to bear. But he finds himself like a samurai with a sword trying to fight a man with a machine gun. Every time he tries to lock onto a target, the enemy simply accelerates out of range with humiliating ease, repositions, and attacks again. Too fast, they are just too fast. Sakai grits his teeth, watching his comrades turn into falling torches one by one. He sees a Mustang pilot, after shredding a Japanese fighter, perform a victory roll with casual arrogance. That dominance, that absolute ownership of the sky, chills Sakai more than the fear of death itself. This is a war of different dimensions. The Americans are no longer fighting a nightly duel. They are waging war with assembly lines, with aerodynamics, with chemistry. The battle lasts perhaps 15 minutes, but for the Japanese airmen, it feels like a century. As the B-29s drop tons of incendiaries, turning the ground below into a sea of fire, the Mustang squadrons reform and head south. The sky slowly returns to a deceptive calm, leaving behind only lingering pillars of black smoke, the tombstones of Japanese aircraft. The return trip is equally treacherous. After high-intensity combat, many Mustangs are running on fumes. The pilots fight exhaustion, their eyes glued to the fuel gauges where the needles are tapping against the empty peg. Every drop of gas must be calculated. They lower RPMs, adjust prop pitch, and pray they don't hit a headwind. When the iconic shape of Mount Suribachi appears on the horizon again, many pilots are too tired to cheer. Gear down. Tires screech on the matting, blue smoke. When the propellers finally stop spinning, some pilots are so physically drained, their legs so numb from hours of sitting, that they cannot climb out without help. But when the intelligence officers tally the results, the room erupts. In that single day's battle, the Americans claim 21 Japanese aircraft destroyed, with 5 more damaged. Post-war, analysis suggests the devastation was even more widespread, and the American cost. In air-to-air combat, only 2 P-51s were lost. 7-1. A slaughter. The data screams one conclusion. The air defense system of the Japanese home islands has collapsed. If the sky over Tokyo is now a playground for American fighters, if the elite interception units cannot stop the Mustangs, Then the Empire's doomsday clock is ticking its final seconds. April 7th, 1945, a date burned into history. For Saburo Sakai, it was the day his faith in victory died. For the citizens of Tokyo, it was Black Friday. For the world, it marked the moment the Allies finally tightened the noose around Japan's neck. And behind it all, it was not the divine wind, it was not a miracle. It was the scream of wind at 25,000 feet. The roar of the Packard Merlin, the blood spilled on the blacks ends of Iwo Jima, and a disposable tin can hanging under a wing, worth $15, that changed the course of history. If you want more hardcore breakdowns of history's deadliest miscalculations, smash that like button and subscribe. I am your strategy observer,